Good afternoon. Welcome to the March 25th, 2026 tree board meeting. We'll do a quick roll call. I'm Lance with the City of Coos Bay.
Rex Miller, board member.
Patrick Bringartner.
Cora Vandervelden, Chair.
Mark Egan.
Perfect. So I don't see any public comment, so we'll skip that. We'll go right to the action item. And the action item number one is the, I'm wearing my glasses here. Get this right. The annual election of chair and vice chair. The tree board will nominate and take a vote for the chair and vice chairman. If it pleases the board, nominate and vote on the chair and vice chairperson for 1-year term. The tree board rule as defined in Municipal Code Chapter 8-30-040 states the tree board composition of and procedures. The tree board member by majority vote shall elect a chairperson and vice chairperson for 1-year term at the beginning of each year and may re-elect the incumbents. The chair shall preside over the tree board meeting and retain the right to vote, and the vice chair shall preside over or in the chair's absence. The 2024 chair was Cora. I don't want to butcher that. Vandervelden.
Just like it's spelled.
Just like it says. Huh? And the vice chair is Rex Miller, and staff is requesting the board nominate and vote a chair and vice chairperson.
I just want to say that I do not want to be considered for either of them. I believe I'm vice chair at this point. I think Rex was in 2023, but in either case, I didn't want to be considered one way or the other. So, I don't have a preference as to who gets nominated. So, I'm game for whoever.
Well, with that said, I'd like to reappoint Cora as chair.
I accept. And I would like to go ahead.
Okay.
I was going to say I'd like to appoint Rex. Make a motion.
You make a motion?
Sure.
I'll second the motion. Does it need to be made first?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess
And I'll second the other motion.
Okay, so we have a motion for Cora as chair and myself as vice chair. I guess that's the motion.
Yeah.
So now we can vote on it.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, it carries.
Okay. So second action item is Arbor Day. Arbor Day is a day in which individuals and groups are encouraged to plant trees. In the month of April, many counties observe such a day. Though usually observed in the spring, the dates vary depending on the climate and suitable planting season per location. The Arbor Day proclamation will be presented to City Council on April 21st, 2026. Staff is requesting the board discuss possible locations and events for upcoming Arbor Day. In 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees. And this holiday, called Labor Day, was first observed when the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. Arbor Day now is observed through the nation and in the world. In 2021, throughout the proclamation, Mayor Joe Benetti and council established that the last Friday of April will be observed as Arbor Day in the city of Coos Bay. This year, the city of Coos Bay will be purchasing 10 trees to be planted in the parks. The trees is, the tree purchase is we plan to purchase and budget from the Parks Fund.
We have an idea which part?
Well, last year's, I'm on the Parks Commission, and I remember this was sort of a discussion. The Parks Commission was hoping that the tree board would choose the trees, and then I think the Parks Commission, we were working on identifying where specifically those trees would go. But I think expertise on the type of tree would be really helpful, and then maybe the Parks Commission could kind of decide sort of where they go, which I think is what happened last year.
Yeah, I know when it came to the board last year, people had wanted, the Parks Department had wanted us to tell them where to plant the trees, and we kicked it back to the Parks Board because we didn't really know where the trees were needed or could be accommodated. So I think we're kind of open, to whatever we decide.
So last year, we planted 5 Douglas fir trees up around Mingus, around the pool, and we planted 5 Douglas fir trees at Midlake, around the bathroom.
Were those the ones that were from the Moon Project?
Mm-hmm.
No.
These are ones that we ordered in. That's what we did last year.
Well, in the past, I remember as being ornamental flowering trees, not so much evergreens, but evergreens is a nice choice, especially if we need screening somewhere. Some of the trees have been taken out. So, hard to say, we kind of need where they need to know where to go before we say what we should do.
Greg, do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I think, thank you, this is Greg Hamblett. I think guidance from the tree board, I like the ideas. I think we're on the right track. I think just maybe a few species of trees that we can utilize, or we can even present to the Parks Commission about where we can locate them. If we have some flowering trees or some ornamental trees that we would prefer to put in certain places, maybe if it was in a sunnier hillside area up by the pool or along the path at Mingus Park, that would do well in those locations. That'd be some good advice for the Parks Commission to take under consideration. Of course, always evergreens, Douglas fir, spruce, whatnot, those type of trees, more in the denser areas of John Toppit's Park, or like you said, shaded trees, shaded areas that maybe need screening in Mingus Park. So yeah, I think the Parks Commission is open to any suggestions from the tree board. And then once we have an idea of what type of trees that we think that we could utilize, then the Parks Commission then can take that under advisement and then place those in the correct locations in the park. So we're flexible. I think staff is flexible. I think the Parks Commission would be flexible based on the suggestions from the tree board on the particular type of trees, and then we can make that determination of location once we have the determination of what kind of trees we, as a tree board, would like to see planted.
Just out of curiosity, haven't we had a bunch of trees removed from the lower area of Mingus Park? Either windfall or rot or...
Yeah, we did take some down, there's some windfalls, and we did take one down around the old picnic pavilion area there, where the rewilding area is. We did take some out of there. We did take some flowering trees out of there as well during the rewilding project.
So maybe we should put some of the flowering trees down there.
Is that area going to be filled? It was pretty wet and swampy the last time.
It's still going to be wet and swampy. We just raised the pathway up and put drainage in, but it's still wet.
Okay, that's not a good idea.
And East Side Park could maybe use some love as well. Haven't been out there to look around in a while, but that might be if Mingus is already sort of at capacity, could be an option. Greg, are you familiar with any like tree needs out at the East Side Park?
I think East Side Park is a pretty wide open park. It's more of a field than it is a tree laden park. I think there's some exterior trees along the borders of the park. I think the east side, if we were to plant any, I think the west side of the park is pretty laden with trees. I think it actually abuts against properties that maybe have maybe a break or a barrier, tree barriers there. The east side of the park is probably a bit more sparse. I think the north and south sides are pretty barren, but I think the south side is more for the baseball field. So probably don't have a large need for trees on that side. But I think the east side could probably maybe benefit from a couple of trees. But I'm not sure about the spacing right now. But definitely that's a place that could use some trees over there.
Maybe the boardwalk as well, possibly. Or is it too unstable?
Well, the boardwalk, again, it's a dike, and so we'd have to be very conscientious about what trees to put in there, root systems, and whatnot. So I would not consider that a place for viable trees. A lot of wind down there as well. But again, it's we're working on other things on the boardwalk right now. We have the retaining wall project. We have the handrail project that's going to occupy some of that spaces there. As far as city property goes, and as we move further south, it moves into port property. So that area down there is really not in our area of control. But the north area where the paved or the wooden boardwalk is, we don't have a lot of room in there for trees. So I don't think that's a real viable location for trees, just because of those factors: wind, soil, what kind of root system we can put in there. But I think East Side Park could definitely look at some trees. I like the flowering ideas or the flowering trees in Mingus Park. Like Lance said, we did remove some. Maybe we can find other locations that we could put those in. Maybe not in the rewilding area, but in other areas in the park.
I'm okay with that. Yeah. So do you need to make a motion on that?
Yeah, do you guys have any particular understanding the constraints? This tree board's not going to meet again until long after Arbor Day. And so is there any particular, we do have a list of street trees, but they're maybe not appropriate for parks. Is there any trees that come to mind that we could look at for the parks species that would be appropriate?
Well, maples are always a good bet. They're pretty tough. And, second would probably be the flowering cherries, flowering plums. But maples, that's what the street trees are called, maples. The other thing I was wondering about, there's supposed to be a buffer between residential and commercial, or residential and industrial. And I don't know if there's any areas that would utilize that, but if there's any areas where residential looks into commercial that needs to be screened, that would be a really good use of. I think the typical one is layered cypress. I mean, they're probably overused, but they provide a really nice screen. I mean, if you don't want to look into a commercial zone, that's what we did down at Teakwood Plaza down there. just because there's residential above, and they didn't want to see parking lots and that sort of thing. So I don't know if there's any areas that, in the city that's been disturbed. I'm almost looking at some of the stuff that we're looking at today, like up in Pennsylvania. They're taking out trees. I don't know. Maybe, of course, that's all residential, so maybe that might not fit. But I think that's something that's been overlooked, that we really should try to create buffers.
Okay.
One thing I can think of offhand, I'm trying to think of where housing comes up in commercial, would be maybe in Empire, guess what would be one down Empire, would be south side of Empire. There are some homes that sit up a little bit high that you kind of see onto Empire. And there might be room there to be able to plant trees. That's the other thing. I think there's a little bit of area between some residential, right over here. It comes up against commercial, but there's not really any property to be able to put a tree like that I can think of. And I'm just, that's the only one I can think of. If everybody else has other ideas, that'd be great too. Just let it throw it in.
Okay, well, I think we have a pretty good list of, oh, I'm sorry, John,
One more time.
or Mark, I'm sorry.
What seems to do what I wrote down here, they bring the objections to it, but dogwoods seem to do nicely, and they flower. And they don't get all that wide, they don't get all that high, and they're really not going to plant, just take it off. I don't
Not
know
very
what
sturdy in the wind, though.
The white ones, there's not a lot of the east.
Right, yep.
The pink ones are kind of an ornamental thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Just broke down there. Oh, also, the ornamental cherry and the ornamental plum, one of the plum flowers earlier, like February-ish, and then the cherry flower in May. So it not especially in the part that's even mixed with that, so that you see those. A lot of people mistake it for one or the other, but that we have sort of the flowering for a longer period of time.
Okay, so I think we have a list, and just kind of make sure I captured it, possibly East Side Park, Mingus John Toppins, maples, flowering plums, flowering cherries, fir, spruce, dogwoods, any other species? Is that a pretty good list of trees that we could possibly use, and then understanding, the location that would be appropriate for that particular species of tree. So more sunnier, more sun exposure for the flowering trees, and then a bit more screened areas for the evergreens.
Well, yeah, those that you mentioned very well, deciduous, of course, and flowering ornamentals, they wouldn't screen.
Yeah, no, I agreed with that. Yeah.
And maybe what do you need? 5 trees planted?
We're planning on planting 10. Yeah, but we have a good mix here, I think, of trees.
5 of each.
Maybe you do 5 screens and 5 ornamentals.
Okay.
Because there's lots of places you can put in screening trees. Both anywhere.
Not just the screening is particularly for me. So.
No.
No.
Because my field gets a lot of those homes like to look into.
Yeah.
this part.
Yeah, I think the intention with the evergreens is just to replace some trees that maybe we've lost either via storm or staff had to remove it for safety or hazard, dangerous trees that might have come down in the park. Specifically John Toppit's, we had to do a lot of trail maintenance where we had to take out some dangerous trees or some hazard trees that could have come down, so we can replant those, and I think that maybe we can focus our flowering plums, flowering cherries, maybe the dogwoods in or in Mingus Park, where it would be a bit more appropriate to plant those trees. So maybe keep that rural feel in John Toppit's Park, and keep that ornamental feel in Mingus Park or East Side Park that would be appropriate for those type of trees.
I think that works.
Okay, thank you very much.
So we have, make a motion to have what Greg suggested, that the flowering trees for Mingus Park.
Sure.
And the ornament, or not the ornaments, but the conifers and the just evergreens in either East Side Park or out of John Toppit's.
So,
property. Okay, you have a motion, need to be seconded.
I think weren't the flowering trees also going to be for east side as well? Like flowering trees for Mingus and maybe east side, and then the larger.
Actually, for this agenda item, there was no action requested. It was just a discussion.
Just discussion.
Yes.
No vote.
No action requested.
Okay. All right, we'll move on.
But great job. You guys were so close.
All right, so our next action item is ODOT submitted a request to remove 2 trees located within a right-of-way along northbound US 101 and near Fir Avenue. If it pleases the board to approve the staff's recommendation to remove 2 trees within the right-of-way along US 101 and Fir Avenue. The Oregon Department of Transportation has requested the removal of 2 trees located within a right-of-way along the US Highway 101 near the intersection of Fir Avenue. This request is associated with the upcoming ODOT 101 ADA curb ramp project, which will construct and upgrade ADA compliant curb ramp at multiple locations throughout Coos Bay and North Bend area. The project includes replacing several existing ADA ramps and installing new ramps where there's currently not existing. One of the locations identified for improved near the intersection of Fir Avenue and 101. At this location, ODOT will install an enhanced pedestrian crossing that will include an ADA compliant curb ramp, a continental style crosswalk, and rectangular rapid flashing beacons. The 2 trees proposed for removal are located near this intersection when fully leafed to create a visibility conflict between pedestrian and vehicular traffic. Staff supports the removal of these trees to improve the sight distance and allow for proposed pedestrian safety improvements.
You have any discussion regarding it?
Well, those maples have always had a tough time there because of the wind. I don't know why they have to move and put it in the ADA ramp, unless it just happens to line up coming across from the global place there, but that doesn't really make sense. I guess what's the point? So people could go from the motel over to Front Street?
looks like it, yeah. Well, you know, I always thought there's not a lot of continuity between, like when they do those wine walks, they try to include the village down there.
Oh.
There's not really a very pedestrian friendly way to do that. So like, this is that problem. We have this little bit of a consideration.
Yeah, and the people at the hotel might want to come over to Front Street. and there just isn't a safe way to get over there.
I'm thinking if you're readjusting that sidewalk, you might want the space where those trees are to sort of be the lead-ups to this, to where the sidewalk dips so that they can handicap it can cross. So that's the only thing. We think can't really tell exactly how far apart those are, but it looks like from the picture, this whole ramp project looks to be kind of long, frankly.
Yeah, I think to have people, especially possibly in a wheelchair, to safely cross 2 lanes of a busy road, imagine they probably need a lot of visibility to make that happen. And so probably makes sense that anything blocking that visibility would need to come down.
Could they, if we allow that, could we have them plant another tree over in that area that's on the curve there to the north?
Yeah, that's kind of my thought. If they're gonna take one, they're gonna take them out, put something down in front of the old museum there.
Yeah, if you guys don't mind, if I can just interject the conversation, I think it's good. So just kind of looking at this holistically as we're moving forward, we do have plans for the Front Street blueprint as that moves along. So in that area that you're referencing, potentially in the future there could be some construction there in that area. In that curved area along Fur where it wraps around to Front Street. So we did kind of discuss this with ODOT. Is there a possibility of planting trees elsewhere to offset these? We kind of explored that option. We don't really see a viable location that we could plant a tree that is not going to get disturbed in the future. Perhaps in other future renditions, we can consider that. But I think for this project, where we're at right now with this design, I don't think it's a real viable option to plant another tree in this area. I think you guys are spot on with, as you're crossing this street, if you're, going east to west on this ADA ramp, as you're stopped there, you're looking to your left for oncoming traffic. Those trees could be an impediment to your vision. That's the whole purpose of the need to remove these trees. And Mark was absolutely correct. And Patrick, as we're building these out, ODOT has certain requirements that they have to put certain ADA ramps where there wasn't some before. So for continuity of travel for pedestrians, this is a location that they're putting an enhanced rapid flashing beacon crosswalk at. So it's going to have the flashing lights, push the button. It's going to have the flashing lights. So that'll alert the vehicular, the traveling or the driving public to say, hey, there's somebody here. But doesn't mean that they're always going to stop. So the person needs to be able to see, is it safe to cross? Are these people slowing down? Are they stopping? So that was the whole catalyst for the removal of these trees. We did explore options to maybe add them, but just right now, it's just really not a viable option. Hopefully in the future, after we move some other construction projects along, we can look at the possibility of adding more trees. But with this particular project at this particular time, we don't want to put a tree in and then have to take it back out.
That's understandable. We don't want a situation like we had on South Empire Boulevard.
Exactly.
So where does the property line go? They used to have some nice trees in there, and they were taken out. Nobody ever brought it before the tree board. They just took them out. Why don't we put trees back, if that's in the right of way, back in front of Gold?
I think the property line is real close to the sidewalk. I don't see that the property line is very far from the sidewalk. I'm not sure. That's a good question, Rex, but I don't think it's very far. I think it's real close
Well,
to the sidewalk, in between the sidewalk and the building. There's not a lot of room there.
The other place that is sort of that area to the north of Global, there's a whole lot of space there. I would suspect a tree or two could be put there just sort of to compensate without being a giant visibility issue. Isn't that space is pretty big there.
That's the island area there.
Yeah.
We had some flowering cherries in there, and they ended up taking them out because of visibility issues.
Oh.
And it was a pain to mow. But, you know, just looking at the tree board in general, going clear back to 92, we used to have a lot more trees. We used to have a little bit more teeth in the law, you might say. Now, they've taken all the trees out of the backside of the old red line. They've taken the ones out of Global. Now they're just butchering, of course it's on private property, we're just butchering the rhododendrons in front of the old Cortel or the old red line. And we're just really going backwards. You know, anybody that comes to this community and sees that must feel like, gosh, these guys, you know, where do you come from? Powers? They just don't get it. I'm absolutely incensed by what happens down there at Red Line. So, with the whole point of this tree board was to try to make the community prettier, make it nicer. And we just keep losing chunks and kind of go, oh well. But I don't know if these have to come out for a crosswalk, okay. But I think we need to really kind of come back to where we were in the beginning. Let's get some trees on our streets.
Just out of curiosity, the Front Street project, will that allow any encompassing trees in that development?
Will there be trees in the Front Street development? I'm sure there probably will be, but I'm not sure at this point. But I'm sure that there will be some kind of green landscape associated with that project.
Okay.
Yeah, I think our land use, community development, and our rules kind of mandate that we have a certain amount of the project has to be landscaped.
Yeah, I think it does too. It does, but there's no teeth in it as far as, you know.
No, and that's this, I don't want to get in the soapbox here, but that's a real problem because, you know, the landscapes are supposed to be 15% when they go in, and they barely meet that minimum. But then they take out plants and more plants and more plants.
And then where they cut the water systems off and.
Yeah. I mean, the money that is spent and just wasted, like the way back when the corridor projects were done, and they put in an expensive irrigation system, turned on once, never been turned on again. There the backflow sits over there in front of Auto Electric, never been used. Put in a lot of expensive little, crimson azaleas, grew up in weeds. 6 months later, it was just a weed job. So anyway, that doesn't have a whole lot to do with the tree board, but it does have to do with the sense of community and if we don't keep up these things that we require it, and then it just all goes away. The last one's kind of come across my wheelhouse. It's just kind of backward thinking. Anyway. So if we need to tell ODOT they can take these trees out, what are we going to say?
Just somebody make a motion that we.
I move that we allow them to remove the trees.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay. Next on our agenda is the after the fact tree removal itself.
Wait, before we move on,
Yes.
when they, Greg, when they take those two trees out down there by Burr and 101, can they be moved somewhere else?
The two trees,
Yeah.
I don't know if these two trees are candidates for relocation. but we can definitely look into that. I think these are just some maples, and I'm not sure if they, I don't know even how long they've been there. I think they've been there for quite a few years. I think, Rex, you alluded to the fact that they have not done well, so I'm not sure if the health of the trees, if they're, you know.
The sad thing about these is they're probably the only two that haven't been hit with car. Yet the wind is just absolutely
It just beats them up.
I don't think that's in their scope of work to do that. So I don't think
I'd
they've,
rather save it than if we can.
I don't think they've budgeted for that.
Okay. All right, I'm done.
We got a motion, we got a second.
And it's passed, yeah.
All right, here we go.
Just dig them up, but you go out and do them up yourself.
Pretty big. There's 3-4 inch count, they're pretty big. Yeah, pretty big, and they're an open field, yes, but not inside.
The tree board will consider the request to remove after-the-fact tree removal from South 15th and Pennsylvania Avenue. If it pleases the board, approve the after-the-fact tree request from South 15th, just north of Pennsylvania Avenue. On January 26, 2026, the City of Coos Bay received an inquiry from the developer of the Inglewood Housing Project. The request was to remove the tree that was located in the right-of-way that was preventing them from installing an ADA compliant sidewalk along South 15th Street just north of Pennsylvania Avenue. In an effort to not delay the project, staff provided guidance for the developer to remove the tree. On March 3rd of 2026, the city received an after-the-fact tree removal request from the developer, Representative Darren Nichols with Nichols and Wood LLC, requesting the removal of a tree on South 15th and Pennsylvania Avenue. All costs associated with the request will be responsible of the private developer.
Okay, things the trees already been removed. Somebody want to make a motion that we approve?
Yeah. I'm going back, sure. All right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the after-the-fact removal of the tree. South 15th.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we've had a motion made to approve the after-the-fact removal of the tree at 15th and Pennsylvania. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? No. Motion carries.
Okay, on to the next item. The tree board will consider the removal request from 768 9th Avenue. If it pleases the board, staff recommendations to approve the removal of 5 trees located in the right-of-way behind 768 9th Avenue. 2 of the trees after the fact, 3 of the trees for future removal. On March 3rd of 2026, the City of Coos Bay received an application from Shauna Stillion, property owner of 768 9th Avenue, requesting the removal of 5 trees from the right-of-way behind her residence. 2 of the trees have already been removed prior to the request. The 3 remaining trees have exposed roof on a steep hill embankment located above the house and shop. These trees create a hazard to the property owner. Staff supports the removal of these trees. The homeowner will remove the trees at their expense.
Hopefully the homeowner understands that if they remove those trees, they're going to have a land stability problem.
Well, they have a pretty land stability problem with the tree roots hanging out there.
Yeah, I know, I've seen the ones, but
What do you think, Rex? Is there a chance that they could kind of fall on the
I
house? or
think,
sit in the ocean?
yeah, the golden meter, I'd take it now. That would be my vote.
Somebody want to make a motion?
All right. Make a motion. I make a motion that we allow the applicant to remove the 3 existing trees from the site at
760.
768.
768.
Anybody
Second.
do a second? Okay. We have a motion to allow the homeowner at their expense to remove the trees in question at 768 9th Avenue. It's been seconded. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay. You'll let the homeowner know?
Yes. The last action item that we have is about a member on your tree board, and he would have to excuse himself from this. But by doing that, that will mitigate a quorum. We won't have enough. If he excuses himself from this.
Did we have a conversation about that or not?
We can have a conversation, we just can't take any action, because we do have a member of the board here that right now we have a quorum. The member would have to recuse himself because he does have skin in the game. But in order to conduct business per the charter, is 4 members constitute a quorum to conduct any business. If we take on this item, then we would only have 3 members of the tree board, so that would not have a quorum. So I guess we could have a conversation, but it would just be kind of a moot conversation. So I would leave that up to you folks to have the conversation, but again, we can't conduct any business regarding it, so.
Would it be helpful to know how we would vote if you were thinking about submitting it?
Well, I think we prior heard how you looked at discussion about it, but obviously we can't take an official vote today. If you guys want to talk about it today, we can. Or we could wait until there's 5 people at Joseph. I don't mind talking about it. I'm kind of semi-prepared to talk about it. We just want to hear what I have to say today. I'm okay with that. I mean, yeah, my understanding is you can have discussions without quorum. You just can't take action. So they need to say Robert's rule of order.
So I would leave that up to you. So.
Do we want to discuss it or do we want to wait?
I guess I'd just like to make a comment, 2 comments. We had a awful time with the bean counter across the street saying the same thing. That's, the trees are up against my building, I want them out of there, they're touching my awning, and I went down and pruned them so they don't touch the awning, and they probably need it again. Anyway, it was a battle, but we were able to keep the trees in that corridor. And so, Mark, if it meant me taking an extension ladder down there and climbing up on your roof and cleaning the roof once a year, I would do that to save those trees.
Which I certainly appreciate that. I'm not sure how my insurance would go for that. but that would be awesome. Let me just give you a little bit of backstory, because obviously I had some concerns, and it doesn't appear that the board is inclined to want to address the ideas that businesses should be included in the process of selecting trees. That being said, at one of the conversations, probably the last meeting you and I were both at, which was I don't know, year and a half ago at this point, you had suggested that I could just come to the tree board, ask for removal. So that's kind of what I'm doing. The history of this is that we have an unusual building. There's two of them in town that I'm particularly aware of. I believe they're both built by the same builders back in the early 50s. These buildings have what I've been told are called parapet walls. So everything on that 10,000 square foot roof ends up, the roof is the gutter system on the roof. It's just the design of the building. They channel into scuppers. They go down the walls and out the curves. I have modified the scuppers. I put in additional overflows. There was an initial overflow with the system. I put in additional ones. Problem is that occasionally, I shouldn't say occasionally, it seems like at least once a year, we have a really big storm that will take those trees taller than the 18 feet that those walls are, and it'll dump all those leaves onto the building, and it can be overnight. There's nothing I can do to prevent the clog, and it can happen. It can happen at midnight, and I come in the morning, and I've got a serious leak issues caused by these scuppers piling up so quickly. In this particular case, these taller trees are not conducive to that building, and for that reason I'm asking that I be allowed to remove those. And my suggestion would be, rather than put in a normal ornate tree, they all tend to go about 20 feet wide, so they don't seem appropriate there for me. Would be to do something maybe like a dogwood. You can comment that the white one does better than the red. I have both. I agree with you. Neither one seems to get much more than 15 feet tall, and I've had this plant for 15 years. They don't get that wide either. They're probably not as wide as the trees that are going to be there, which will have to be clipped, just like the last ones, up 14 feet high as those branches start to come over the road, because trucks that pull up along the curb there they hit the past trees, and the city has then come out and cut them. Which that can all be done but I suspect there wouldn't be a schedule that would prevent some of that from happening in the future. But my suggestion with the dogwood, they're not a hugely broad tree. They're sort of columnar, and they have a nice flower at a certain part of the year. They generally wouldn't get beyond my 15, or pardon me, my 18-foot wall. And so it would save us, as building owners, a significant amount of money over the years. The trees there are just about to surpass that wall. And that's when the problems are going to come back to us. So for that reason, really, the continuity of the tree, whatever it might be, but from the property owner standpoint, they have proven to be a real problem in the past for us, costing us a lot of money. One other thing that I would want to add to this is I am a tree guy. I've planted, all my properties are in Coos Bay. I've planted more than 50 trees in the city. So I'm not against trees. And I want to put back a tree here that can be appropriate for us. We did sidewalk on Bennett, 150 feet sidewalk. And rather than just put back a 12-foot wide, 150-foot sidewalk, we put back that sidewalk with 7-foot wide or deep planters, and a total of 60 feet. And we planted trees in there and bushes. So we our building, our property, we maintain that, we paid to have that done. We've added to what I think the tree board is trying to accomplish. So in that respect, we've been a very good neighbor with regard to trees, and we're asking for some consideration to essentially just cut down on what has proven to be a very expensive situation on our part. That's kind of my argument to it, and I hope you guys see fit allow me to take those trees down and put in a nice white flower with there that would probably, from my experience, the ones I have are 15, maybe 20 feet at most. That's what I would hope to happen the next time. And if there's any comment or feedback, I'd certainly love to hear it.
Well, just quick before we run out of time here, Mark. That's an ODOT street, just like commercial or like Anderson. And the whole point of having the tree board of the trees where they get these corridors of the same tree, so we look like Eugene or Medford or Salem, where we have this corridor of trees. Now, those exact same trees go all the way from Blackmark Shopping Center all the way to the Episcopal Church on 4th Street. That whole street is that way.
Not quite yet, because I know there's some in front of it. It's a building that's mainly attorneys, I think, are in the building on the corner of Old Rock and 4th. I think it's scheduled to be done sometime in the future, but there's some kind of ornamental tree that probably gets.
And where?
Corner of Elrod and 4th. I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
called the Compass Building.
Well, yeah, okay, you're right. But on the other side of the street, and then starting at Joe Slack's architectural office, everything else is that tree. And a bit about that. Years ago, we wanted the trees up commercial. We wanted them all Armstrong maple. These were the most narrow maple there is, the red leaf, the red maples. But we caved on that one on the corner down there by the Blue Heron Bistro. And I'm sorry to this day that we ever did that. We put in Styrax, which was a low tree. Had it been an upright tree, people could have opened their doors. They wouldn't have to deal with this bush. The trucks have hit them. They've never done well there, and it just takes away from that whole idea of a corridor of a green leafy tree corridor on state highways, on our main thoroughfares. Now, what you've done on the side there, I think is wonderful. That fits all the bills. But man, when you're talking the main traffic corridor, the whole point of the tree corridor was to create that. So that's my spin. Like I said, I would gladly crawl up there as extension of the those. Or we could.
I'll take you up on it. Okay. Once a year, but the problem is, perhaps even if you did that, even if we tried to do that,
Yeah.
it's predicting, you know, when that big storm is coming, that's going to, you know, and the leaves have to be right at that right point where the oppositional air is about to take the leaves off, and it blows them all onto my roof. And then it clogs, and then, you know, if nobody's in the building, having, 12 hours of the day, if nobody's there, then we have a really big problem, is what I'm at. And I would just hope that with that in mind, I've been a public servant here for 16 years. I've done my share for trees in this community. I've done my share of beautification downtown with regard to those planters. I would think, I would hope that I would get the consideration to do that. I'm not looking to wipe out the trees. I'm looking to replace them with trees that wouldn't be a persistent expense to me. That building, when it was built, and I a portrait of that building, there weren't enough trees when that building was built. So, I mean, there's just lots of things to consider. And I think we still achieve some sense of corridor with that type of tree. And if you have a different suggestion on all years, it would still give some longer aspect to it up to about 15 to 20 feet. So it wouldn't totally destroy the concept. But anyway, I guess we could talk about this forever, but I just thought that would be, I don't know if I could get a copy of this, because I don't really, I think I presented my case as well as I would know to, so that I could write it down to be able to present it to her, hopefully at some point, the board, whatever's fine, which may, I don't know that, other than being the first meeting when I first joined, I don't know that we had 5 people at one of these meetings. So, but I guess for now, just table it till the next meeting. Hope there can be enough quorum.
Okay, on closing comments, just for staff would be, we're kind of looking for the approved street tree list, for kind of like what we have for the downtown street tree. That's kind of what we're looking for.
Well, that is available.
Well, we have it for the downtown, but I don't think we have it for the.
So we're just kind of continue this conversation. About a year and a half ago, we have the approved tree list for the downtown corridor for the urban renewal areas, but we never completed the conversation for the rest of the city. So maybe in the future agenda items, maybe we can continue that conversation.
Maybe a tree, and I can make a case for why that would be an appropriate tree.
Well, again, I think it's a future agenda item discussion. So just think about that. Maybe we could get it on. Maybe not the next agenda. Maybe the last agenda of the year, or first agenda of next year. I think we only have one more meeting this year scheduled, and then we have our first meeting in January. July. Is there 2 more meetings still this year? Okay, 2 more. Yeah, 2 more meetings this year. So, anyways, just something to think about. You know, we started the process a long time ago. We just never finished it. So the staff is looking for it, and that's part of one of the goals of the tree board. One of the responsibilities of the tree board is to develop those lists. So, anyways, just keep that in mind.
The groundwork has been done on that.
It has.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that's all.
I guess we can go ahead and adjourn.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.